Well, I've been getting quite a few comments and questions on my videos. A lot of them are from young people, young teenagers, and fathers wanting to get into the hobby with their sons. And a lot of them just kind of wonder, what they can do and how to get started. So I drew up this little diagram here of a layout and a kind of a train room. And first of all, I'm going to go down and show you a couple of things in my train room. And then I'll come back here and go through this diagram with you and point out a few things and give you some ideas that might help you get started. Okay, if you've seen some of my videos probably, I've shown you the trains, but I never really showed you kind of some of the things on how I built some of these things. First of all, a shelf, a little shelf yard really takes up no space at all, and it just really adds a lot to the layout. As you can see on this end, I built it into the end of the yard. I built into a bookshelf. Gives you quite a bit of storage space. And building a shelf is really quite easy. I just got these angle brackets here at the hardware store. Found a stud in the wall and just supported the shelf on those. That way you have no legs coming to the floor. It doesn't take up any room at all. And as you can see, I have room for 3 people to sit right here. I have a 2-seater couch right there with plenty of headroom. Don't even hit your head on the shelf. And 1 seat over there. And a little corner table there, the work area or display area. And then right across from here, underneath the layout, I've set back in kind of a little entertainment center. Television and VCR, DVD player. Now this shelf here is 18 inches wide. In a smaller room, you really don't need to have 7 tracks on that. You can go down like 10, 12 inches. And really adds a lot to the room. Makes a nice train room. And now I'll go back up and look at the diagram and I'll explain a few things. This room here is 20 feet long and 11 feet wide. But the room I have on the diagram is 12 feet long and 10 feet wide. So I'm going to show you how to do something similar in a much smaller space. Okay, so here's the room I was telling you about. It's 12 feet by 10 feet. Now, of course, everyone's situation is going to be a little different. So I just kind of made this hypothetical scenario. And let's just say that you probably have a small layout already. Maybe you had it stored in the garage. Just say it's a 4 by 8 and you kind of got tired of it. It's kind of boring, just 2 loops of track going around, running your trains around in circles. So the first thing you do is you bring it into a room. You want to put the 4-foot side against the wall, because that gives you better access. You need access to all the 3 sides. If you put the long side against the wall, then it's kind of hard to reach the back there. Now what I've done is I've put 2 yards in here. Now the first thing you want to do with the track is put 2 switches right up here against the wall. And what this has done when you add 2 yards is this essentially, real railroads of course don't run around in circles. They go from point A to point B. So when you add these 2 yards is what you've done to this just boring circle of track going around there. You've actually made it into somewhat of a prototype railroad. You have a yard here, which would be a town station. Over here you have another one. And in here you probably have another station. So you basically have 3 stations. So your train here can leave here, point A, travel into the layout. Now of course the layout, I haven't designed the inside. This is all up to you. This is just a couple of loops I put in there. But you leave point A, travel in around the layout once, twice, And now if you want to stay in there and just do continual running, you throw this switch, you just run your trains around in here. And then you throw the switch and then you run your train into point over to point B. Then you run another train out from this side, they have passenger train, come in, make a couple loops around, leave the layout, come over into this station. So it makes for a nice kind of a long run, you know, it's like you're really doing something than just running your trains around in circles. Now the room here, each one of these little squares is 6 inches. And you have a lot of storage space underneath these shelves. They take up really no room at all. You can get 4 tracks in about 10 to 12 inches in width. You could have bookshelves above it. You can have storage cabinets below it. Right here you show a little 2-seat couch, table. You have your TV and a DVD, little entertainment center here. You have that shoved underneath the table, so it doesn't take up any room. It'd go back here underneath the table, like you saw down in my train room. You have your 2 control panels here. Room in this corner for maybe a display case or a desk. Another thing about these yards, you know, if you have a 4x8 layout, what do? You have 2 trains on there, maybe three engines, about 15, 20 freight cars at the most. So you had these 4 tracks here, 4 tracks here, gives you 8 tracks. Now you want to keep one empty for restaging, to back one into each one. So essentially you have room for 7 trains. You can get all your trains that you've had stored in boxes or on shelves somewhere, and can have them all out here operating on these tracks. Now after you run around to point, you leave here, you run around, you go in here. After you say you run all 7 trains, all your trains are headed into these dead-end stations. Well, that's kind of inconvenient, so how do you turn them around? Well, you don't have to back them all the way around the layout, which is kind of it's kind of hard to do. You get a lot of derailments. You just throw these 2 switches. You just back this train over to here, back this train back over to here. It's just called restaging your trains. So then you have all 7 trains backed in, ready for another operating session. And one thing I do want to say about the actual layout, you see here I've shown a double crossover. I like double crossovers rather than 2 single crossovers. If you have 2 single crossovers, every time the train goes around you have to throw the switch. With a double crossover, you get all 4 switches in the in the crossover position. And what you've done is you have an extremely long main line. You go through the crossover into the inside loop, come out around, come back out to the outside loop, and then you go into the other yard. Or you can continue just continuous operation, going from the inside to the outside, inside, out. You never have to throw these switches. Now, if you want to have 2 train operation, you just switch the through position. Then you run a train, or first you want to maybe run one train into the inside loop, stop it, throw the switches to through position, then run another train into the outside loop. Now you have 2 separate loops. You can run 2 trains continually, completely independent of each other. Then one on the outside loop, you just run that one out into the yard, throw your switches on the crossover again, run the inside loop out, and so it really adds a lot, gives you a lot. I hope that's given you a few. Send me a question on YouTube.